It can be in the form of IT, it can be technology, but the application on that invention. Walkman is not an invention because it just took the cassette radio and made it small so that you can carry lah, that's all. You just made it small and made it portable. Ever since the Wright brothers invented it, everything to do with aircraft is just an improvement in terms of the application of that invention. So the turboprop aircraft, all the jets that Boeing and Airbus and others produce, is actually, they are a better version, an improved version based on the invention, the early inventions. So all the things that came out from mobile phone, from iPod to iPad, whatever, iPads next time you might have it, all of these things are applications in terms of improved technology, etc. The last one I talk about is novel ways of working, different ways of working. That's also innovation. Nothing to do with technology, you can't touch it. So there are things such as focus activities, laboratories, open days, the things that we're trying to do in Pemandu is actually a novel way of working. It's a form of innovation that we use to catalyze transformation. I would say today, most of the innovation that exists in modern day today are a combination of 2 and 3 above. Very few actually exist in category 1. Very few actually. Many of the things we talk about today are application or new ways of doing things on the basis of invention that was made a long time ago. Because modern day sciences actually, a lot of it reach saturation point. So it's new ways of doing it, new technologies, improved ways of doing things on the basis of earlier inventions. Let me give a small story before I jump into the action. How many of you have heard of this small invention here in Malaysia called chantas? Chantas. These chantas, I take a good example of what MOSTI has been involved in, MPOB has been involved in. In the oil palm sector, we have been struggling with how to harvest this fruit. You know, the fresh fruit bunches from the oil palm tree, very tall, the trees, very difficult to climb. And so this one was invented here in Malaysia. They put a sickle at the top. So we didn't invent the sickle. Sickle is there, metal is already there. And then they put a very long pole and put a motor at the bottom. You switch on the motor and the thing can cut. So you don't have to climb the tree to get a fruit. You just put it up there and potong. Now, the idea, why is this unique? Who is the target customer? The target customer for this is the harvesters in the oil palm estates. That is the target customer. Think about it. How many harvesters are there? Loads of them. Why is this so useful for us in this country to think about applying this? Because we don't have, many Malaysians don't want to do this job. To be honest with you, the Malaysians don't want to be a harvester in the oil palm estate because it's 3D, dirty, difficult, and dangerous. They don't want all this 3D. They want different kinds of job. So the market is there. The target segment is clearly. The value, where is the distinctive? You don't have to climb. This is good because you don't have to climb. Actually, 4 workers today in an estate, or 5 workers today in an estate, you can reduce that to 1 worker if you use chantas. You see how much the productivity increase if you can use the chantas. If we get rid of the chantas, use the chantas pula, and put it there. What we found here is we can reduce the total number of workers inside our estate if we do this. Unfortunately today, one of those units costs 5,000 ringgit. So the challenge in the laboratory on oil palm was, how do we reduce the price of the chantas so that it becomes 2,000? So there are many things you can do with the sickle, many things you can do with the material you use for the pole, and with the little motor at the bottom. If you can reduce it to 2,000, many of the small holders in oil palm estate can you afford to use this. So therefore in the government we've said, okay, if we can reduce the cost to 2,000, the government will fork out 1,000 ringgit to make sure that they can pay for it, perhaps only 1,000 ringgit. If we can do that, it's a huge productivity tool in the hands of our people in the oil palm business. Let me now talk about the subject of how we link transformation to innovation. I said before, 3 outcomes for innovation: invention, novel application, number 3, novel ways of working. I now want to talk about this novel way of working and how we use this to transform. Transformation, in my mind, is depicted by which arrow you use to drive on this yin-yang diagram. On one side of the diagram is called doing. The other side of the diagram is called being. Doing and being. In this world, there are 2 types of managers and people. There are those that stands on the doing side, and then they put the arrow towards the being. There are those on this side that stands on the being, and they put the arrow on the action. So I would say this: the approach that we are taking under transformation is beginning with the doing. So I mean, action first, then the character of the economy will change. We make actions first. Actions must begin. So if you make a distinction between the 2 in this chart, on the first approach, the yin-yang approach, I always got this problem because the Chinese read from the left to the right, so the yin-yang is from the other way. So yin-yang approach, if you follow that approach, that means you push it from the yin-yang, you use strategic intent. You come up with an innovation program. You put up an institute for innovation. You come with creative courses on innovation. Whereas if you start the yin-yang approach, the yang-yin approach, you start working on the area of focus, specific area of focus that drive the change. Innovative ways of problem solving to cause it to happen. Innovative ways of instituting discipline of action. And innovative ways of delivering results. So we are actually focusing from here to make sure that the results actually happen. So I always believe if you repetitively ask people to do something different, then the transformation happen with the character of the organization. Change the doing and the being will happen. Not the other way around, because the other way around takes too long. We have no time. We have 10 years to go and make the things happen to our economy so that we reach high income status by 2020. If we have 20 years, 30 years, maybe we can take the arrow from the being side. Let me give you a little story about how we dealt with the reducing crime on this point. For the last 3 years, actually, previous 3 years, crime has been rising consistently in Malaysia. So when we sat down in the laboratory to ask the question, how can we reduce crime? One group in the team says, let us send all the police for training. Oh, let us get the most sophisticated IT system to put in the police division. Give them the best guns that exist. So those kinds of capability, produce a new process, write a new procedure, and increase the salary of all the police. So this was one group. The other group, we would say, no. Let's analyze first where the incidence of crime was happening. So we took every crime that happened in the year 2008 and 2009, then put them in a spreadsheet, in a pivot table. When we did that, we found out most of the crime was happening in only 50 places, 50 hotspots. So our solution was we wanted to mobilize 14,000 over police from the non-hotspot areas to the hotspot areas. So in January this year, we mobilized 14,222 police from the non-hotspot areas to the hotspot areas. We didn't train them. No IT system, no change in structure, no behavioral change. Just stand there because we need you to be there. So when they went there, what did happen? Crime rates for the first time, you have the chart, the reduction in crime rates. Immediately, the crime rate has gone down total by 16%. And then, street crime has gone down by 38%. So these are the numbers we got. So 38% drop in street crime, and then the overall crime, with the previous chart, is 16% drop in overall crime. This happened in Penang, this happened in Johor, this happened in Selangor, it happened in KL. These are the 4 states where we had the most number of crimes. Because the doing is the one that matters. It's the doing. Now again, another doing. We started to put as many CCTVs into those crime hotspot areas, because you also want to solve the crime incidents. CCTV is a very useful way to then capture that. So I gave this example because it is a stark difference from saying, let's send everybody for a course. As to say, never mind the course for now, but I send you to do the action, and you get the results. But I'm not saying courses are no good. You still need to do that, but you need to begin the action. That's the one that gets your big results fast. Next slide. Let me talk about what is it the methodology that we use to get innovation through action so that we then transform the government as well as the economy. Couple of bullet points here. Innovative ways of prioritization. I tell you this. The word prioritization is one of the most bastardized words in any organization. I tell you this because everybody says, oh, we prioritize. Suddenly you realize, if you do not use this word, we do not do this, you actually don't know what prioritization means. Because everything, I do this, I also do this, I think this is important, I think before long, everything is important. It becomes really brutally clear when you say, I am not going to do this, I will do that. Because if you do not say that, what happens to resources? We only have 3 types of resources: money, material, and machine. And people. People, material, and money. And if it's the priority, that's where the money you put it there. That's where you put people into. That's where material is put. Because if you don't prioritize, then the problem is everything is important. You put the money wherever you are. Then that's the end of it. So how do you make sure that you prioritize is key? And this is how you do it, in my view. Very clear outcome. For example, if you work in a company, the clear way to say you want to prioritize and put a stretch target. You say, I would like to increase net profit by 20%. Very clear target, and that's the priority. So when you do that, the next point is you identify the key results areas. What are the things you need to do to cause the net profit to increase? And focus on those things. Everything else that do not increase the profit is not important. You have to be daring to say, I am sorry, I like your idea, but this is not going to increase the profit. So right now, somebody else's priority is that, is not mine. This is a hard thing to say, but when you talk about prioritization, prioritization only exists if you are daring to say, this is my priority, this is not my priority. And you will only know which is a priority when you see allocation of resources. That's the last point, focus on resources. Let me talk about another method, quick method of problem solving. You hear me talk a lot about labs. Let me give you a mathematical formula why the lab is actually very quick compared to the task force. In this example, imagine you have a normal task force. Many companies and government also have a lot of task force meeting. You have a steering committee meeting, 2 hours per meeting, 4 times they meet a year. Every quarter they meet, and then over 3 years. Actually, if you multiply, that's 24 hours. Man hours involved in the process. Then you do another one, the task force working committee meeting. These are the guys, technical, they're supposed to work. The main hours is 3 hours they meet. Every month they meet 12 times. Over 3 years, 108 hours. Actually, the total hours